Welcome to Webinar Wednesday from Click to Science. I'm Sandra Frericks, and I will be the host today for our webinar. And I'll be joined a little bit later by Tracy Frachel, who's going to share with us some new resources from Click to Science as well. Our focus for today's webinar is on developing leadership. And we're going to talk about developing leadership for program leaders, site directors, also leadership in staff, and leadership for the youth in our programs. So we're going to kind of divide it into threes today and talk about leadership on all three levels. We're going to focus on how cooperation and collaboration are essential elements in leading STEM and how they can help develop a strong team and develop leadership skills in youth. I want to thank you once again for joining us and invite you to check out the web links and the resources in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So what do we think leadership looks like for, first at that top level, for site directors, program leaders, site managers? What is their role as leaders in after school? As we highlight this, we will also be sharing with you some resources from Click to Science PD that you can use to help develop leadership in youth and in staff as well. So at this top level in our programs, leadership is about what we do every day. So I'd love to hear from you, your leadership challenges or opportunities, and I invite you to share those in the chat box. We're thinking about what leadership looks like for site directors and program leaders. I want you to think about how you have led in the last week. I bet you've solved a problem or coached someone else to solve a problem. You may have reached out to your community via social media to help them understand your program. You've made connections with other professionals and are working on developing your own skills or improving your overall program quality. That's why you're here today. So those are some examples of what leadership looks like. What do you see as the challenges or opportunities for leaders in after-school programs? You are welcome to keep sharing some ideas in the chat box. I appreciate those of you who have put some ideas out there, solving problems, troubleshooting, that's going to be a challenge, and also around making the scheduling work, supporting youth behavior. I'm hoping that some of the resources we're going to share today, especially around developing leadership in youth, will also help with supporting behavior. In fact, one of the resources I'm sharing today comes from our set on developing skills and managing groups. It's a challenge that a lot of staff face, and we're going to talk about how developing leadership in youth also helps around some of those challenges around behavior. So hopefully we will be able to address some of the issues that you have, or also share with you some of the resources or research on best practices. So one of the things I mentioned earlier is we're going to kind of be thinking about a lot of things in threes today. For some reason that's kind of been the theme with this webinar. And as I thought about the role of site directors, program leaders, site managers, those local leaders in out-of-school time programming, I really saw their leadership role as having three big main components: leading in the program itself, but also leading in their school and leading in their community. So we're going to talk about what that means. And I'll start with leadership in your program, which goes beyond hiring and training staff, which is certainly an important part of the role for site managers or program leaders. But the research in this area tells us that strong leaders articulate their program's vision, mission, and goals to their staff, but also to administrators, students, families, and community leaders. And that kind of highlights this idea that leadership goes beyond just what happens in your program and includes your relationship with school administrators and other teachers, and also with families in your community. And that quote is from Building and Managing Quality After-School Programs. It is one of the web links down below, so you can download that full report about how you can use leadership to improve the quality of your program. High-quality programs are characterized by strong, full-time leaders who create positive, collaborative work environments. And staff in these programs consistently report that their program leaders collaborate with them, were respectful of their ideas, and supported their efforts. Programs with collaborative, open leaders reported a higher level of staff retention as well. So as you're thinking about what leadership looks like in your program, one of the key ideas to take away is, especially in our environment, a collaborative, open style of leadership is really important for engaging your staff and creating the environment that you want for your staff and also for the youth in your programs. Do you feel like you have the leadership skills that you need to lead in your community? We'll talk about that next. What does it look like to lead in your community? How do you increase the visibility of your program in your school or in your community? Have an advisory board of community leaders that are engaged in your program. Do you sit on boards for other organizations in your community to better connect, or is there a collaborative environment within your community that allows you to build those sorts of relationships? School programs in both rural and urban areas are able to expand support and resources when the staff or leadership in their program regularly meet with senior district or community-based leaderships to work on mutually supportive goals. This is another strategy from that resource building and managing quality after-school programs. Leadership in your community, as Gwendolyn says, takes collaboration and partnering with people who have interests that are in sync with your program. So being able to build those connections, whether you're in a rural or an urban school, to the community-based leaders and to the school leaderships and school district, is really important in developing support for your program. And that leads me to the third area that we talked about is leadership in your school. Research has shown that program leaders who are visible in their school, who make connections with principals and with district leaders, have more impactful programs. Now, the research doesn't necessarily tell us why programs that have stronger connections to their school are more impactful, but my theory is this is because when you are visible within your school and communicating with school leadership, you're better able to align your program to meet the needs of the students and families you serve and to be responsive to your school leadership, and that leads to having a more impactful program. So just to talk about this one more time, for site directors, site managers, program leaders, there's really three key areas to think about your leadership, and that is leading within your program itself, and we'll be coming back to that a little bit more, leading within your school, making connections, being visible, and communicating with your school leadership, and also leading within your community, looking for those collaborations and partnerships with others in the community that have goals that align with those of your program. So the resource that I recommend if you want to learn more about this level of leadership is Building and Managing Quality After-School Programs, and you can find that link in the lower right-hand corner. Now let's think about how we develop leadership skills within the staff that we work with. An important part of providing leadership to your program is to develop the leadership skills of your staff. Coaching resources from Click to Science PD are a great resource for working one-on-one with staff to help them develop these skills. SMART goals, in particular, are a good tool for using with staff in developing leadership. If you want to learn more about SMART goals, there's a webinar from January where we talked about coaching and talked about SMART goals in particular. And there's also a blog from January 30th with more ideas about coaching staff with SMART goals. So I'm not going to go into that a lot now, but those resources are available if you want to think about that. And the goal there is to work one-on-one with staff members to identify areas where they can improve and build their leadership skills. For staff, we see leadership again having three components. The first one is leading yourself, and then also leading with youth and leading within your program. The first part of leadership for all of us, and particularly for our staff who may be in the point of developing their own skills, is to manage themselves and lead themselves. Especially new staff may need extra help in learning how they can keep calm when their job gets stressful, and learning to engage as an important part of your team, working with others and collaborating. So you may think about, as you're observing your staff, whether there are particular skills they need in this area of self-management and leading themselves. As they develop those skills, then they're able to take on a more important role in providing leadership within the program itself. Take advantage of the experiences your experienced staff as models for newer staff. If possible, give new staff the opportunity to work alongside experienced staff that can model the leadership that you'd like to see them develop. Consider also if there are leadership roles your staff can take on in your program, such as planning activities, taking some responsibility for social media communication, or planning special events or family nights. The more opportunities you can provide your staff to lead on projects like this, the more appreciated they're going to feel and the more opportunities they'll have to develop their own skills. And hopefully engaging staff in this way can also take some work off your plate. So think about how you can give staff opportunities to be leaders within your program and maybe take on some responsibilities that would give them a chance to develop new skills and new strengths. The third area of leadership that we need from our staff is in leading youth. Remember, leadership of youth is much more complicated than getting youth to follow directions or stay on task. It's about youth development, helping youth develop their skills for success in life. And the resource that I recommend for this area, thinking about leading with youth, is also in the lower right-hand corner. It's Voice, Choice, Access, and Passion. It's a report from Boys and Girls Club about preparing the centennial generation for leadership. And it has some strategies we'll talk about in a bit about developing leadership for youth, but it also has lots of resources that can help your staff develop their skills in leading the youth in your program, adults in your program. So here are some strategies from this report. Youth need adults who demonstrate a sincere interest in them and who they are. And this is an important aspect of providing leadership for youth in your program. Making personal connections is really important with youth, and demonstrating a sincere interest helps build a relationship that's going to benefit staff and youth. Youth appreciate adults who view them as contributors and leaders, who empower them and give them opportunities to lead themselves. Youth appreciate adults who consistently use positive guidance and support, focusing on youth development and developing the strengths in youth rather than punishing or focusing on problem behaviors. And finally, youth appreciate adults who plan experiences that allow them to learn and try new things. So these are 4 strategies that are really important for your staff in leading youth. This quote from the Voice and Choice report: the best way to capture teens' hearts and influence their mind is to maintain honest, authentic relationships that keep them in a dialogue with caring and supportive adults. Leveraging key techniques of positive youth development help build clear youth development plans and schedules that drive positive outcomes. So this focus on looking at the strengths in youth and developing their leadership also helps you manage groups and manage behavior within your program. So this is where this idea of developing leadership skills in your staff and developing leadership skills in youth really come together. In order for staff to maintain order and create a positive learning environment, they need to view youth as contributors and leaders and help youth develop those skills. So that brings us to our third area to think about: how do we develop leadership skills in the youth in our program and support them in seeing themselves as leaders and developing the skills they need in order to lead. Research by Richard Lerner and his colleagues has shown that programs have a positive impact on youth, reduce risky behaviors, and help prepare young people for life when they share what Lerner called the 5 C's of youth development. These 5 factors that create space in your program to promote youth development and leadership are competence, confidence, connection, character, and compassion. Competence is having the approach that youth are competent and having a positive view of their abilities, recognizing their competence and their weaknesses, which includes their academic competence as well as their social and emotional skills, health, and problem-solving skills. So your goal in your program is to recognize the competence that youth have and create an environment and activities that help them increase their competence in academic areas, in STEM, but also in social and emotional skills, in health, decision-making, and in problem-solving. The second factor is confidence. It's an overall sense of positive self-worth and control in their lives. We want youth to have a sense of confidence and a view that they have a future and they have control in that future. Helping them see role models that are positive, see their own skills and problem solving, and connections from what they're good at now to possible careers are all strategies that help develop confidence. Connection refers to the positive relationships that youth have with others, with the caring adults in your program, with their school and their community, and also with their peers. It's important to develop a sense of connection, a sense of belonging in your program that will help youth have the strength they need to withstand other challenges. Character for youth is about values and standards of positive behavior, knowing and doing what is right. A lot of us have behavior strategies that focus on character, setting high expectations, letting youth know clearly what is expected of them and what are the consequences if they can't meet those expectations. But developing character and values is important to success for youth in the future. And compassion is also important for youth to have a sense of caring and empathy for others. Community service projects and service learning are great strategies for developing compassion. Research by Lerner and his colleagues demonstrates that youth who participate in out-of-school activities score higher in these elements of positive youth development. And you can develop each of these elements in your program to increase the impact that you have on youth in your program. We're going to move on to looking at what this skill looks like in action with resources from Click to Science PD. I'm going to share a video with you that focuses on how you can help the staff in your program develop their leadership skills. This part of the webinar will model for you how you could lead a brief professional development experience with your own staff using these resources. We're going to watch together a video called Presenting a Challenge, where an after-school staff member shares how she builds relationships with the youth in her program and helps them manage challenges and frustrations. So before we do that, let's think about relationships and why they are important in youth development. So I'm going to go back to the slide with the 5 C's, and this session, the video we're going to watch focuses on building relationships with youth. And I want your feedback in the chat box. How does that strategy of building positive relationships with youth connect to these 5 C's of competence, confidence, connection, character, and compassion? So what is the role of relationships in youth development? As you watch the video, look for the strategies that Jennifer, the staff member, uses to create a safe, supportive learning environment. She'll talk a little bit about what she thinks is important here. Pay attention to that. Also, listen for the laughter. How is laughter an important part of building relationships in this video? And then we're going to have a discussion afterwards about what is leadership and how can we use hands-on STEM activities like this one to
mess this bag up. This is our radioactive container, but we need to move things.
Check it out with our hand.
Yeah. You're dead. It'll kill you. It's radioactive.
Oh! No, I don't want to be dead.
Engaging youth in STEM learning is fun, but can be loud too. How do you manage a group when youth are abundantly engaged? Watch as Girls Inc. staff use strategies to support youth when working on a STEM activity challenge. Listen as Jennifer shares an important element to group management and great STEM, making the effort to get to know your students and learning their abilities and interests.
I look at what the girls are interested in. I get to know them very well by being involved with them outside of TechBridge, by listening to them, talking to them. When you get to know them and you start watching them, you can say, this girl thinks like this one thinks like this, and you can start to see what activities would be a good fit for them. With your ball down here, so you got to be able to get the. That's the question. You have an idea that's a start of something.
We need a long enough tape, though. That's not.
Oh, but you have more than just tape you can use to make things longer. More than just tape you can use to make things longer. Do you need more time, girls? Or are you done? I always do this because you always want more time. I actually shorted you 5 minutes, so you have 5 minutes more.
What?
But you know what? It made you think harder because you thought you were under a shorter time limit. It made you rush, but now you know you have 5 minutes and you can complete. Make one change at a time. So if you make lots of changes, you're not going to know what works and doesn't work, right? So first you talked about making it smaller, so we're going to make it smaller and see what happens. Your tape wore out. It just wasn't durable. So sometimes it's okay. You have good designs, but you don't have the right materials. That's okay.
Okay, so one of the things We noticed in the video that Jennifer talked a lot about building relationships with the girls in the program, getting to know them on a personal level, understanding how they think, especially when you can work with the same youth over long term. That's a real important opportunity you have. And it helps you think about how to put them into groups that work well together and what areas of development are going to be most beneficial for them. So what other strategies did you see in the video? So share some strategies for building relationships or leadership that you noticed. In the video, we noticed the relaxed environment where the youth and the adults are comfortable with each other, they have positive relationships. There's a sense of caring, which is important in building relationships with youth. I think laughing and being able to laugh together there's a difference between laughing with you and them. But I think Jennifer did a pretty good job distinguishing that and keeping the interactions positive, but enjoying their time together and enjoying being together, which is an important way of building relationships and giving the youth the space they need to develop their leadership. So thinking about this activity, and I'm not sure it's entirely clear to you what they're doing in this activity. It's called radioactive golf balls, and you can find it on the Click to Science website. In this activity, the golf balls are in a paper sack, and youth are developing a tool for getting them out of the sack and moving them across the room to another location. So thinking about this particular activity, or really any engineering challenge, what are ways that you can develop leadership through a chat or through an activity like this? Radioactive golf ball challenge, as with a lot of the STEM challenges that you find on Click to Science or on other sites, is designed to be done in a team. And so as you have youth working in a small group, this is a group of 3 here in the image, they have the opportunity to practice and develop their leadership skills in small group settings. And as you put those groups together, you can design them in a way that challenges young people to develop leadership in different ways. In order for that to be a meaningful part of the activity, you do need to take time to talk about it as you're debriefing at the end of the activity. The time that you spend discussing what youth have learned in that activity is really important for them to actually learn and retain it. So if you want them to learn about leadership through an activity like this, it's critical that you take time to talk about it, to ask questions like, how did your team work together? Encourage them to think of strategies like listening to everyone's ideas. When one idea didn't work, we tried something else. Articulating those strategies of what it means to work together in a team is important to help youth develop their leadership skills. You can also focus on problem-solving skills. Did you use any problem-solving or leadership skills today that would help you be successful in life? It's a good question you could ask at the end of an activity like this to help focus on leadership. Some skills they might have used were brainstorming, trying out different ideas, being creative, or working together. Helping them understand what skills they're using in the activity and how those skills relate to being a good leader is crucial for young people to really make those connections. You can also ask questions like, what character traits make a good leader? Give them a chance to tell you what they appreciate in a leader. Maybe the ability to listen to others, being a good decision maker, or communicating well. Helping youth understand what skills they used in the activity and how those skills develop leadership is important. They need you to articulate with them the connection between what they're doing and the skills that they're developing. With our Click to Science webinars, we want to leave you with the resources that you can use so that you can help your staff develop the skills we're talking about in the webinar. So you can use the same resources that I shared today in the webinar to help your staff think about the 5 C's of youth development and how they can use STEM activities and the 5 C's together to develop leadership skills. You can use the learning module that we watched, and there's a link to that down below, Building Relationships for STEM Learning. There's also a meeting resource in the resources to download pod called Is It Managing or Controlling? And that gives you some more ideas that you can talk about with your staff about what good leadership looks like, how you manage young people and manage their learning without controlling them. So all of these resources are available so you can take what you saw in this webinar today and do it with your staff to develop those skills. You can even download the radioactive golf balls activity to give staff an opportunity to practice integrating those 5 C's of competence, confidence, connection, character, and compassion into a STEM learning experience and helping you think about how they develop leadership skills through that. Our guest on our webinar today is Tracy Prachel, and she's going to talk to us about the Click to Science Thought Leader videos. Tracy, do you have your audio set up so that we can hear you?
I think so. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. You may want to turn it up just a little. I'll turn the volume up on my computer. All right, Tracy.
Okay.
Tell us about the Thought Leader videos and what you're promoting.
Sure. So we are excited to share that Click to Science, our STEM professional development resource for out-of-school time program providers, has actually turned 3 years old. We've really gone from that vision to a comprehensive product that was launched 3 years ago, a vision of a website that contained really high quality examples through video-based instruction and downloadable guides that really has come together to be clicktosciencepd.org today. So in celebration of our 3rd anniversary, 3rd birthday, we have 3 videos that are really featuring thought leaders from out of school time for different organizations. And these thought leaders include Jennifer Sarangelo from National 4-H Council. They also feature Edwin Link of Boys and Girls Club of America. We have Pam Garza of the YMCA of the USA and Gina Warner from National Afterschool Association, who are featured in these videos and share various information regarding some questions that were asked. We have 3 of these videos, and they have different focuses. The first one that we debuted back in January focuses upon futures of out-of-school time programs and the youth that we reach through these programs. We're going to continue this campaign of thought leader video sharing through May. So you'll see 2 other videos that will be shared, one very soon here within March that focuses upon college and careers, and then one that will be shared really in that April timeframe around youth development professionals and out-of-school time professionals. So Sandra, I believe, has queued up the one that we've shared at the beginning of the 2018. So in January through now, we've been sharing this future video. We'll be sharing those through social media primarily, and I'm going to place in the chat box as well a link to the playlist where you can access these videos. So while that's playing, I'll let you view the first video that we debuted in January, and we'll play that and I'll post that in the chat box.
STEM programs open so many doors for today's young people and help prepare them for a future that we don't even know what it's going to be. What we know today is going to be very different in 10 or 20 years. And when they're voting, when they're making decisions, when they're making choices,
there might be some streaming issues, so I'm going to post these in the chat box as well.
Important part of decision making, and to trust that and to be open and to learn for themselves.
For a young person to go through their life and not be able to solve a problem, they're cutting off almost any future they could have. And it's not just about careers, it's about voting. If we don't have scientifically literate people at the polls, how are they going to decide whether we put a new dam in a place, or whether we raise taxes, around environmental issues? Or they can't make those decisions because they're not literate. We put a lot of emphasis on reading literacy, even math literacy, but very little on science literacy.
We think of science as a process, a method, but also just the process of knowing and understanding the world around you. So out of school time is
So I think what we'll do is just leave that thought leader video in the chat box. It looks like I don't want to have such a hodgepodge of these videos being shared, because they really are great, and I think if you're able to view them on your own individually, you'll be able to get the whole message behind what's being shared through these videos. So the link that I put in the chat box really just takes you to our YouTube account. So if you are a regular user of our Click to Science videos, you'll be able to see a playlist specific for out-of-school time educational thought leaders. Feel free to go there. All 3 videos are listed. Again, there's 3 different videos that focus on 3 different topics. The first one we've shared focuses upon the future. We're going to move into college and career readiness types of topics. And then we will showcase an out-of-school time professionals video in April. We encourage you to use these videos through trainings that you might have, or if you see it shared through social media through our Click to Science accounts or any of these thought leader social media accounts, feel free to share your thoughts, share those with your viewers. These are awareness types of videos where we're really wanting to further the out-of-school time profession and showcase the great pieces that we are doing collectively through all organizations that use Click to Science. Sandra, are there any questions that you might have or the group might have as well?
So I just want to clarify this, Tracy. If they want to share this on their own social media channels to engage with their community, that's okay for people to do that?
Can certainly do that. We would welcome that. I think Click to Science is a really valuable tool, and framing these messages around Click to Science has been helpful in order to help us reach new audiences. We know that you, as a part of this webinar, are very much connected to out-of-school time staff and probably have connections to others that might be interested in viewing these videos, but also using Click to Science resources. So we encourage you to certainly use these through trainings that you might be hosting, or when you're training with out-of-school time staff, bring these up. The one in particular that I think really resounds well with our out-of-school time staff across the country is the one that we'll be sharing in April around that After-School Professionals Week timeframe. But it's a good feeling that you receive after seeing these videos, and it makes you realize that the work that we do is very impactful. And we hope Click to Science can certainly help you increase your impact with the youth that you work with.
So
another piece that I'm going
to apologize again, everyone, for the issues with streaming. I think it has to do with the connection here in my office. But the video that we were watching today focuses on how out-of-school time programs prepare youth for the future. And if that's a message that you are trying to get across within your community or to your partners, this is a great resource that really showcases what's happening in out-of-school and how it helps prepare youth. Do you have any questions for Tracy about the resources that she shared here? I encourage you to take advantage of these thought leader videos and think about how you can use them to get this message across about your program.
I placed in the chat box as well a link to a blog that provides additional information about these videos, a little bit about their background, as well as some links to a fact sheet that surrounds this particular topic of future. We'll be continuing to provide other resources related to these videos, so we'll have the videos being shared through social media, but also look for these fact sheets of information that really helps frame what we're sharing through these videos as well. Something that I know that sometimes people ask, are these videos for free? They certainly are. We encourage you to share them in any way that you can with your audiences.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Tracy, and sharing this resource with everyone. It is exciting to see the programs that are highlighted. I just have to give a shout out. You'll see leaders in these videos from YMCA or YUSA, from 4-H, and from Boys and Girls Clubs. So it's a great resource, especially if you're in any of those programs, to really highlight the great work that our out-of-school programs do. Thank you, Tracy, for sharing your contact information with us. And that reminds me that I want to advance to the slide that has our contact information, and thank everyone for joining us today.